Hello, Malcolm here, and welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips. This is episode 320, and it's the latest in our series called The 10 Commandments of Effective Teaching and Preaching. Key word there, effective. Many people can preach and teach, but how many are truly effective? And for those of us who've been doing this for a while, are we growing in our effectiveness? Sure, we want to be like Paul and Barnabas, who are described in this way in Acts chapter 14. It says they spoke so effectively that a great number of Jews and Greeks believed. So effectively. I'm hoping these tips will help you and me to become more effective. This week's commandment is commandment number 5. The 5th commandment is this: great learning is more important than great teaching. In the end, the effectiveness of our preaching and teaching is measured by how much people learn, how much they apply, not by necessarily how accurate we are or how well we put things together in a presentation or how eloquent we are. Think about Jesus. He was a master teacher, wasn't he? And didn't people around him learn? His listeners learned, not simply heard what he was teaching. And if you think about it, it's quite obvious that we know this because the people wrote down what he taught, even though it was delivered in an oral learning culture. He didn't have it written down, but other people listened. They learned, it went into their heart and their mind, and they went away and wrote down what he said. And we also know this because lives around Jesus were transformed by his teaching. That implies they must have learned something. People gained the courage to live his teachings, even though it got them beaten up and imprisoned and killed. That's some pretty powerful and effective teaching, if you ask me. His audience did not just hear what he said. They were taught, they learned, and they changed. So I'm going to give you 4 tips today that I hope will give you the best possible chance to help your listeners learn. Tip number 1. In your teaching, use a variety of teaching styles. When you're teaching and preaching, don't stick to always one style. Some people seem to react better to the use of stories, others to images. Some seem to learn better when there are video clips involved. Others seem to learn well through discussion or Q&A, or more tactile forms of learning. The science on learning styles has been called into question. Some people believe it's very important, some less so. But I would say this: keeping your teaching style varied will help some people absorb what you're saying better than if you use only one style. You may have a preference to one, and one may fit you better, but remember, you and I are servants of the people we are speaking to. Therefore, if I need to tell more stories, I should do so if that helps them to learn. If I need to use more audiovisual or less, then if that's going to help them, then that's what I should do. So become more skilled at using different styles. It will help your audience to not only hear, but to learn. Tip number 2, give out handouts and printed materials when appropriate. Use the physical handouts and printed materials from time to time. Some people find it easier to learn when they've got something in their hands. It could be just an outline of your talk. You don't have to put all of your material in there. Perhaps it's only the bullet points, but it seems to give some people a sense of peace. They're able to relax and listen better when they know where you're going. 3rd tip, ask questions. Whether this is to the entire group, where you're doing some question and answering with the whole situation there, everybody together, or whether you have some questions that can be used in small group discussion after your lesson or as a break in the middle of a lesson, whatever way you're going to use those questions, getting people to verbalize what they are thinking helps them to clarify their own understanding. Something about saying it in your own voice and hearing you say it that helps the learning to sink in somehow. So ask questions. And 4th tip, do some follow-up. Ask people to send you a paragraph of what they've learned via perhaps a text message, a WhatsApp, an email, or something like that in the coming days. Perhaps you could say it in the next 3 days or by next Sunday or something like that. After some reflection, people are often more able to articulate what they learned, and in fact, it will help the learning to sink in. And if you don't ask them to do that, they may not do so. But if you say, please, I'd love it if all of you could send me in 5 days' time one paragraph or even a couple of sentences of what you learned from this lesson, you'll find that it might entertain you. You might find that interesting, but the more important point is that as they write it down, it engages their brain to reflect on what they've learned. And there is science behind this to say that when we do that, and we write something down a little bit later, it tends to stick with us. So ask people to do something like that, so you're doing some follow-up. Those are your 4 simple tips today. Use a variety of teaching styles. Give some handouts, something physical to people. Ask questions and do some follow-up. I think you'll find that people learn better, not just hear what we're saying, if these tips are employed. What do you think about these tips? Is there something missing? Would you add anything? Which ones interest you the most? Perhaps you're going to try one of those this week and then report back and, let me do some follow-up with you. If you do this or one of these, then please tell me what you've learned from that and what difference it did or did not make. That's okay. Next time, it's the 6th commandment, which is every learner is different, so differentiate. But that's next time. By the way, I would encourage you to consider joining the Athens Institute of Ministry for the UK and Ireland a teaching class series to develop your understanding of Scripture. Our next module is homiletics, which is about the preparation and delivery of lessons, so it connects very well with what we're talking about here. It's in September. You can look at the details online. I've put a link in the show notes. Basically, if you type in AIM, UK and Ireland, one word, you'll find us. And if you have any questions, drop me a line. Please leave your comments on this week's topic. Leave them where we can see them, because we learn best when we're learning in community. If you have any questions about the Bible, drop me a line, malcolm@malcolmcox.org. If you'd like a free copy of my ebook on spiritual disciplines, then sign up for my newsletter at the website, malcolmcox.org. If you know anybody that might benefit, pass the link on. Subscribe, hit the notification button, bell, and all will be good. And until the next time, remember to keep calm and carry on teaching. Take care and God bless.